Okay. Hi, Ryan, Councillor Fields. Are you?
Oh, certainly can. Yep, no problem. Whakatahau ki te uru, whakatahau ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki te, kia mātara tara ki tai. E hiaki ana te ata kura, tio, uka, e hohu, tihei, Māori ora.
Welcome along to our second community board meeting of this term and the first in Aparoa. Just a reminder to everybody that the meeting is being live streamed and it's also being recorded on the board's YouTube channel, so you can find that link on the front of the agenda. So welcome to any members of the public who may be joining us via the live stream, and also to members of the public who are joining us in person in the room. A big welcome to board members and to staff, and just a bit of a heads up that we're juggling a few things slightly differently. So Liz is unwell, so she's not with us in the room today. So instead we have Amy, who some will recognise, joining us remotely in the governance advisor role. And thank you, Amy. And Natasha and people have been juggling some technical issues this morning as well. So we're operating a slight hybrid model, and there may be a few little pauses and gaps along the way. Plus there's a new person sitting in the chair, so I'll blame it on technical issues, but it could well just be convenient or ineptitude. So please be aware. And just a reminder also that any criticism or disrespect of elected members and or staff during the meeting, we'll stop that discussion or move away from the discussion. So just as a bit of a heads up. So the first item on the agenda is apologies. But I can tell from looking around the table that we don't have any, which is hopefully a tradition that we will continue. So the next is declarations of interest. If any members wish to declare an interest in any item on the agenda, and not just a general interest, but an interest that could be seen as a conflict. And also just a reminder that if anything comes up during the meeting, you can declare it as we get into those items as well. So next I'll move to confirmation of previous minutes, and I'll ask for a move that in a second.
I'll move that we accept them minutes.
We get a change.
Yes.
There's a change required on the nomination of Ruben. It wasn't Howard, it was myself.
3.3, I think.
3 points. Yeah.
So that was,
Sorry.
yeah, that was.
Sorry, could I just clarify what was the amendment?
Yeah, there's three. The first one from Howard, from Nigel, which is a repeat of the error, is that 3.3 has Howard noted as the nomination, as making the nomination for chair, but it wasn't in fact Nigel.
Okay.
And also in that same point, there was there's just a misspelling of Davidson, and similarly on page 8.
Yeah.
2 Ds. It's easy to spot it with your own name.
So do we need to move the amendments? So
Yeah.
chair has his name spelled correctly.
So I'm happy to move that from the chair if someone wants to.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, my name is also spelled incorrectly.
Oh, there we go. You see, it's with your own name.
Better check
that?
mine and where's mine?
Yeah, where is that?
It's not H, it's not Swindles, it's Swindles.
2 hours.
2 L's, D-E-double-N.
Don't want to swindle it on the minutes.
No, we don't.
Whereabouts is that?
H.
Oh,
H.
sorry. Oh, yes.
So then I'll put the motion that with those amendments, we can confirm those minutes of our previous and first board meeting of this term.
Jane had a seconder.
Yes.
Okay, I'm happy to second that.
Do I have a second?
Sorry, Ruben, would you just mind saying who the names of the movers and the seconders, because I can't quite catch that from
Sure.
from
So
afar.
I moved it and Tyrone seconded it.
Thank you.
What's that?
All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions?
Straightforward.
It
wasn't it?
was pretty straightforward. Okay, so now we move into public forum. So these are 5 minutes, up to 5 minute public forums, and I'd like to welcome Sarah and regarding the Kukapa school site.
Kia ora. Thanks very much for letting me speak today. My name is Peter Staples, and before the last election, I made a deputation with 2 other locals regarding the council approving the Pura Whetu Trust, PWT, using the former Kukapa schoolhouse in Pigeon Bay. PWT says it is to be used as a community-based kaupapa Māori health, social service centre and community hub. However, their 85-page proposal was so ambiguous, we still don't really know what it is ultimately to be used for. And it seemed like it was more of an event centre. Thankfully, Andrew Turner could see the lack of community engagement and slowed the process down and required PWT to actively engage with the local community. Otherwise, it appeared that it would have been probably rubber stamped and the council would have been legally obligated to follow through with the repair of this extensively damaged remote building. Due to the recent election, I felt it was very important to make the new community board aware of the situation. I'd like to ask you all to please familiarise yourselves with PWT's proposal and to listen to the 3 deputations that were made on the 15th of August, as they have far more detailed information that just can't get through in 5 minutes today. Council staff have actually asked us not to present today and to do nothing until next year. Unfortunately, my trust in the council has been shaken, and I'm concerned that this will be pushed through. I also question the motivation of the CEO of PWT, who lives nearby, and I wonder if there is a conflict of interest for him. I personally know 2 people who work for the trust, and they have told me that Mr. and Mrs. Tickle are wanting to go ahead so they can move permanently to Pigeon Bay and have a job 500 metres from their property. I know this is hearsay, but I am sure you can understand why this information sends up more red flags. Even after the last community board meeting where we presented our concerns and told Mr. and Mrs. Tickle that we thought it was very rude to not consult us, he still did not feel the need to come and talk to us afterwards. In fact, I've now been told by the council that PWT has hired someone to engage with the community. For an organisation that is doing extremely good work in the community, I cannot understand why he still does not want to engage with us personally, especially as people in this community have helped him with items on his property and he wants to live in this community ongoing. His disregard for the locals is astounding and very suspicious. It's quite clear now that PWT have tried to sneak this through with no consideration of the local community. This event centre seems very self-serving rather than community serving. The council have allocated $346,000 to bring the building up to code. Due to Andrew Turner's intervention, the council has been asked to get a more up-to-date costing, as the previous one was from 2017 and did not include fundamental things like driveway repair, wheelchair access, toilets, water, power, drainage, culling of the trees and clearing the area of wild bush. If you see the building yourself, it's pretty obvious that the final cost will easily be around the $1 million mark. It seems crazy to waste money on a venue that is 75k from the city when there are plenty of other available existing and underutilised places that PWT could consider, and especially at a time that the council has adopted a climate resilience strategy. The extra travel from Christchurch required to repair the building and then the ongoing travel required to transport people there just feels wrong and seems to fly in the face of the current climate crisis. The council has only put forward an additional $13.5 million towards the strategy in last year's LTP. I feel the $1 million that are going to be required to bring the structure up to code and usability would serve the council and community far more if it was used towards climate change rather than a job for a local batch owner. The council themselves admit that they did not have many groups showing an expression of interest, in fact only 3, and that was due to the isolation of the property and poor condition of the buildings. A lot has changed in the world since 2017 as the original costing of 346,000 highlights. I understand that the council is trying to utilise old damaged heritage buildings, which is commendable, but with the state of the economy, the council's climate commitment and the location of this site, it is just outrageous to spend more money. I want to make it clear, this is not an attack on the Tickles or PWT, as they do amazing, vital work in the Christchurch community. And as I said, they employ 2 friends of mine who love their jobs. It just bewilders me that they don't seem to have the same thoughtfulness and care to engage with the community that they intend to live in. So again, I just want to ask you to read the original proposal, listen to the deputations that 3 of us locals made on the 15th of August, and that shows far more details to why this proposal in this location is absurd. Thank you very much for giving me this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And
Sorry, I was 35 seconds long.
that's okay. You've had.
Can I ask just one question?
Yeah, sure.
The discussion at the last meeting, obviously I was there,
Yeah.
there was discussions that you were going to come up with an alternative. Has anyone approached the council with an
Yeah,
alternative?
so that has happened, and Duncan Brown, who was one of the submitters last time, he had a meeting with Russell, oh gosh, sorry, I can't remember the other names, Russell Wedge and 2 or 3 other council people. That was where he was told that they did not want us to say anything this year and to not hassle you guys basically until next year because of what Andrew suggested last time, that more the new costings have to happen. When Duncan told me that, it just added another red flag. Why were they not wanting us to let you know? There's new people here, I want to make sure everyone's aware we're strongly against this. Does that answer?
Yeah. I remember last time we actually put it back to council to actually communicate with the community more on the alternatives that were required.
Yeah, but it's not happened, but we also know that PWT have employed a PR person, us. So we felt it was important that we did get something out here to keep it.
Get it live. Yeah, no, fair enough. Thank you.
We're not going away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again for coming in.
Sorry, Ruben, could I just ask Peter, could I have a copy of your
I was actually
presentation?
going to at the end. I tried to find everyone's email address on the council website today, which was a total fail.
That's all right, you only need to send it to us
Okay.
and we'll get it to the board, that'll be just fine.
Okay,
And I'll
great.
just, remind the board that you are receiving a full briefing on this topic. It's in your list. And because there's no action happening between now and the end of the year, it wasn't in the immediate priority list of briefings, so it will happen early in the new year.
I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, so that is the one and only public forum for this one. Oh, sorry, Sarah. Sorry, I thought it was a good one.
Shall I go now?
Yes, please.
Morena, my name is Sarah Smith. I'm here to talk about the same subject, the change of use of the public reserve at 380 Pettigrews Road, Pigeon Bay, which is the site of the former Kookaburra School, which closed in 1949, also referred to as the Kookaburra Hostel. And I'm a neighbour to this site. Local residents, including myself, have not been consulted as yet about the leasing out of this building and reserve, which is designated as open space, or the change of use to accommodate this outdoor ed centre. The Christchurch City Council is in negotiation with the Purupura Whetū Trust, which is a not-for-profit charity who rehabilitate young people coming out of the DHB and justice system. And they've put in a proposal to lease this site, which includes an outdoor ed centre and overnight hostel for use of their clients. The Purupura Whetū Trust are trying to imply to Christchurch City Council that no one lives in the area, but there are 4 households in the immediate vicinity within 100 metres and more, including myself, within 200 to 300 metres of this site. The locals would like to be able to continue to access this space as a public park, exercise dogs and for children to play. But Purupura Whetū plan to operate and use this building for about 9 months of the year, 5 to 7 days a week. They plan to convert the school building into a hostel. They plan to add a commercial kitchen and bring the building up to current code so people can stay there. So it's going to involve installing smoke alarms, insulation, double glazing, extractor fans, etc. They're installing 6 cabins, a new toilet and shower block, solar panels, backup gate generator, portaloos for additional people, a new driveway and a new car park. There's no power supply functioning to the building and the water supply is inadequate, so these would require major upgrades, and which they're looking for the council to fund. There are many reasons I object to this Purupura Whetū proposal. Number one, it will have an adverse effect on the reserve with unsightly visual clutter, a negative impact on the environment, flora, fauna, such as native birds, and it's out of keeping with the rural aspects of Pigeon Bay. The proposal will have a negative effect on the access to the reserve by the public, as they're only opening it for 2 days per year, according to their proposal. And it will also have an adverse effect on the surrounding area with more people, more traffic, parking problems, noise. We also have security concerns for our property and safety concerns for people. And yeah, I particularly am worried about what the Purupura Whetū Trust safety plan is, should anything go wrong, considering our isolation from all the emergency services, hospitals, etc. You know, what's going to happen if there's a problem. Upgrading the building to bring it up to code, I see as unnecessary. It's a Grade 2 heritage building built in 1878. I prefer the restoration proposal of 2014, which was prepared by Tony Usher and Duncan Craig for the council and would be considerably cheaper. And the previous board requested that the council cost a restoration of the building as an alternative to the Purupura Whetū Trust proposal, and that's what we're waiting for. We've not heard anything back about that. I strongly object to Christchurch City Council funding a new outdoor ed centre for Purupura Whetū Trust in principle when there's already 2 well-established outdoor ed centres in Banks Peninsula, including Alton Bradley Park, which Purupura Whetū Trust currently use. So in short, Purupura Whetū Trust are proposing to stop using the outdoors ed centre at Alton Bradley Park and set up a new one of their own exclusively for them in Pigeon Bay, which is going to be mostly funded by Christchurch City Council. I don't understand the logic behind that, especially when there's already outdoor ed centres at the YMCA Wainui, and they also have access to accommodation at Nuku Marae if they would want to do that, or one of the other existing campsites. And there was a failed attempt to set up a new outdoor ed centre at the old Bonds-based school not so long ago. I think that Purupura Whetū Trust are misleading us and Christchurch City Council but by describing their outdoor ed centre as a community hub. This is what it's described as, because it's not intended for the local community at all. It's for their own use. And I question the logic behind the council resolution to have to lease out heritage buildings like Kukapa School, which could result in it investing millions of dollars only to get a return in rent, which is a fraction of what's having to be spent to rent it out in the first place. And I think it will be cheaper not to rent the building at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Did you have a question?
Yes, sorry, this is my first meeting, so this is the right way to do it, Mr. Chair. But I just wanted to let you know that I do know Karatiana and Alice. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, we'll get out of your hair.
Can we go?
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. And as Penelope has indicated, there will be a report coming to the board.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, passes.
Now, Victoria, I saw your hand go up when I said public.
Yeah, I made a request to speak, but I didn't get a response. I made it last week on Thursday. But I didn't know who to address it to because Liz is gone. I don't have a replacement. I sent it to Ruben.
I must have missed that, sorry.
I've got no problems with coming up and speaking.
Yeah, just
No,
2
yeah,
No,
minutes.
absolutely.
Less
Yeah.
than 2 minutes.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to speak anytime you want. We'd love to.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, my name is Victoria Andrews, and you'll see me around as a civic trust representative. And I wanted to say welcome to everybody, and especially the new committee members. It's a pleasure to see some new faces, and we wish you all the best for the next term. I'd like to just circulate some information about a very important historic site right on the edge of Akaroa, because the image is quite spectacular, I think, and is not very often seen. So just for your reference, and then I was trying to email out the Civic Trust newsletter to committee members, but I made 2 mistakes because I don't have a list of current community board representatives. I've checked the council website and all the councilors are listed, but not community board reps. So could I get a list of?
Come on, I don't think they've been updated yet.
Okay, well, it would be helpful if that could be circulated to members of, or posted, just so we can access it on the council website. And my other comment would be that I will dearly miss Liz Carter, and I'm glad she's retired. She deserves it. But she always sent out a list of the agenda to members of the community, like Heartlands and the Civic Trust, and we would all get the agenda as soon as it came out, usually on a Thursday. Is that going to still be kept in place?
I can't see any reason that it couldn't be. And
It's helpful.
it would ordinarily have happened, I would imagine, but
Okay,
there's been an illness with this, Evan has been away. So
yeah, well, maybe just make a note that
Yeah.
I think was a very good policy in terms of communicating with the members of the public of Banks Peninsula,
absolutely.
because it's hard sometimes to go online and
Yes, it
remember
will
to
happen.
check.
Yes, that will happen.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And could I have the name of Liz's replacement? Is there,
It's Liz Bevan,
oh, Bevan,
so
okay.
it's only the surname that changes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're
Great,
just
I wasn't
embedded
sure.
with another Liz, yeah.
Yeah, I would have contacted her, but I wasn't sure who it was.
Well, it's on the community board's website. The contacts are on there.
Okay, but I wasn't sure which one.
Well, it's
Okay, well, thank
community
you,
board
and
advisor.
that's all I have to say.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Victoria.
Thank you.
And apologies for missing your email.
Oh, that's it.
Okay, so unless there are any further forums, which I don't believe there are, we'll move to item 5, which is deputations by appointment, which there are none. Item 6, which is there are no presentations or petitions. So we then move to item 7, which is a staff report on our meeting schedule for 2023, 2024, and 2025. Talk about forward planning. And hopefully everybody also saw last week an email that went out that had the some notes about the additional briefings that will happen, the format of those, and also our ability as a board to view this agenda as the minimum number of community board meetings, not the total number of community board meetings, and some of the detail around how we may, if needed, call an extraordinary meeting or have additional ordinary meetings added or convert one of our briefings into an ordinary meeting. So there's quite a lot of flexibility there. And I think the other thing that the staff put a lot of work into is making sure that the presence of the board across Akaroa, Wairewa, Little River and Littleton is quite well sequenced and quite well covered over the 3-year term. Did anyone have any questions about any of those meeting dates? No.
Really?
It's still, I mean, it can be changed at any time
Yeah, I think that's
Because I
important.
do feel like we're a little bit light on Akaroa at the back end of this term. That's all. That's just a comment. Just
I saw.
it's a very fine balance, but
Yeah,
That was just the way that the cycle 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It was just how it ended up ending.
just something that we might
Yeah.
want to just
we
think
had it
about.
last time. I think last year we had that imbalance too. So we changed it.
Yeah, the third part of the recommendation covers off the ability of the board chair and community governance manager jointly having a delegation to amend the schedule. So there is the ability there. We're not locked in once we.
I guess that's just decisions, the amount of decisions and the urgency of those decisions.
Hmm?
The urgency of the decisions
Yeah.
making would be, I guess, the thing that goes.
So the extraordinary meeting is if it becomes an extraordinary meeting if we call it with less than 14 days notice. So that would be unusual, but something extraordinary would have had to have happened.
Yeah.
But a briefing or an additional meeting can be added if we've got more than 14 days notice, and that may be around an issue where we've got a decision that we can see is going to bring a large number of invitations or public forums, and therefore it makes sense to potentially hold the meeting in the community affected, but also to provision enough time at the start of the meeting for a large number of community members to engage with the board around the decision.
Yep.
So the recommendations in front of us are that we adopt the meeting schedule from February 23 to September 2025. I don't need to read out all the dates, do I?
So I thought we had
On Tuesday.
oh, no, sorry, I see February's the start. I was just thinking the big difference between now and March.
Yeah, no, I think February the 20th.
7th of February, yeah. So the
Yes.
next one's 7th of February.
Yeah, which is a Tuesday with.
That's all right. We haven't got anything between now and 7th of February.
December.
Yeah.
December.
We
We're going
approved,
to February,
And briefing
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So
we approved our 2022 meetings at the inaugural.
Yeah.
So I won't read out all the dates. The point 3 is that the community board chairperson and community governance manager jointly be delegated the ability to amend the ordinary meeting schedule. 4 is that if the meeting was to occur on a public holiday, the board meeting is to be held to the next business day, which is a good example is the 7th of February. And note the holding of board briefings will take place on the 4th Monday of the month, and that's the separate list that was circulated that indicated those. So if I can ask for a mover and a seconder.
I haven't moved.
I'll second it.
To move and ask to second. All those in favour?
No.
Anyone against? Any abstentions? Schedule is adopted. Nice. So we now move to item 8, which is discretionary response fund application for the Little River Farmers Market. And we've got Philippa joining us via Zoom to speak to this.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and welcome to your second public meeting for this triennium. The discretion, just by way of a bit of context, the discretionary response fund is provided through an annual allocation of funding each year by the council. There's nearly $50,000 remaining for allocation to June 30th, 2023 for this board. Applications are submitted online and processed by staff for presentation to the board, and they're discussed by staff members in collaboration as well, and they're presented to you in this format with a report and a supporting matrix with the relevant information to provide good information for you to be able to make an informed decision over what you would like to allocate for each of the projects. Sometimes there might be more than one matrix attached to a report. So this application has been received by staff for it's Little River Farmers Market Incorporated. Apologies for the organisation name at the beginning of the first table. A Little River Farmers Market 2022-23. They requested $2,000 and the amount recommended is $1,800. You'll see that there's a balance of $49,906, and the recommended staff resolution is actually correct. So apologies for that second box in that first table. Going to the matrix. The Little River Farmers Market has been operating for a couple of years now. They received some funding last year for setup costs, and they have applied to the Discretionary Response Fund for public liability insurance and towards signage to help direct people to the farmers market when it's set up. Are there any questions?
No, doesn't sound like it.
So it's Little River.
This is Little River, yes. There's apologies for that first box.
Oh, no, you got to support Little River.
So you know where it's located? It's behind the silo
It's a
area.
it's a
and
great
where it's
remark.
looking
By
at
the
potential-
playground.
Yeah.
I actually stopped on Little River on the way over.
Okay.
Sounds to me like you
Yeah,
might be
I'm
trying to
good.
move the motion, are you?
I'm
Hal?
moving.
Are you proposing that you move the motion that we approve for funding?
Oh, no, I think Lynn should, because
Oh,
it's
yes,
here,
yes,
so I
totally,
wouldn't want to
yes.
take.
I'll second.
So Lynn's moved it and Nigel beat you to it and he seconded it.
Oh, I'm just a smoke beetle.
Yeah.
Do we need? Do a discussion?
Yeah.
So obviously, Philip has noted that there was that typo there. Do we need to acknowledge that? As part of-
To amend it or make a note of it,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't go to the project. Littleton.
No,
That's right.
no, that's that's fine, because that's just an error in the report, which Philippa has acknowledged. So the officer recommendation is correct and the matrix
cool.
is
Thanks,
correct,
Annie.
so that's fine. Yeah.
Easy.
Was there anything else? Just that, excellent. Okay, so if there are no further questions, then Lynn has moved and Nigel has seconded. So all those in favour? Aye. Any against? Any abstentions? Funding is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Philip. Okay, so we now move to elected members information exchange. And I'll start on my right and we'll work this way around the table.
I've really got nothing much to comment on apart from, I guess, the beach. I did ask before Christmas for the beaches be dressed and cleaned. There's a lot of debris on them. Down this end by where the tourists are going out in their kayaks, and obviously the main beach in particular. And this hasn't happened yet. I just hope it's still in the system. It gets done hopefully before this weekend, the long weekend coming up.
So is it like rubbish or is it?
It's rubbish. It's just it's flotsam. It's just bits
It's
of
flotsam and gypsum, not rubbish.
Right.
Or some of it.
So not litter, but like.
No.
No, it's not. It's
driftwood
not.
and
No,
seaweed
it's just weed, and it's getting quite stagnant down that end, and it's obviously the logs and stuff that's been brought in by the winter storm.
Okay, that's you.
That'll do me. Yeah.
Easy. Lynn?
So what exactly is can I bring up at this point?
Yeah, sure. So this is the it's an opportunity for board members to update each other on the recent events and or issues of relevance and interest of the board, specifically in generally specifically in the subdivision. The idea behind it is that we keep it, and today's a little different because the agenda is a little more succinct than it often will be, but we generally keep the each member takes, a couple of minutes to discuss issues. I ideally, it's reserved more for issues that need to be escalated to a, but I mean, it's a good forum to share positive things in there, good things, progress updates and things we need supported or funded. The fact that the Little River Farmers Market is much easier to find now, for example, because it's got signs up and it's much safer because it's got public liability insurance. But also where there is an issue where the normal snaps and solve or council service request process hasn't been adequate, and also where we may see there's a need to raise an action on an issue as a board member, then that's quite a productive way to share a piece of information then for us to talk with staff and find out what we can do as a board to prioritise or address the concern.
Thank you for explaining that. So I guess, yes, along with the farmers market and the playground and the dog park that is now that's going to start this month, the trial for the dog exercise area. So all the area out the back of the main road now is getting really good use, and the community's really got a big buy-in on the use of that area. The one concern is the public toilets, which has been an ongoing problem with overflow backing up. And it is again, so I just talked to someone this morning who works at the craft station. She said she's going to send a snap solve through. Is that and that we would need to follow that up, because that's just not a good look as far as council facilities backing up, and that's happening very regularly. So I'm also concerned about the expense that it will cost every time that it's emptied, because it's got a very small tank as far as I understand, and every time that the Robsons gets called out there to empty it, and that's happening maybe 2 times a week. Potentially it could be like $600 a time. So I'd love to investigate that some more as well.
Yeah.
More toilet facilities in that area.
Yes, that's generally a very loud and consistent Banks Peninsula call.
Right, good. Yeah, loud and consistent.
Yeah, and the Little River one, the board did follow up on that earlier on in the year. And those toilets are cleaned twice a day.
Yeah.
And they've been looking at the regime around that, wanting to improve the service. This was back in February though.
I don't think there's any complaint about the cleanliness. It's when the water flows back, like because the tank is so full that you can't flush the toilets. So I think that is becoming an issue. People are coming in saying we can't flush the toilets. Okay, so
capacity issue.
Yeah, there's a capacity. So I haven't heard any complaints about cleanliness at all. It's
just... there was, the last issue was about the tank, about not having enough water to flush the toilets. Because the tank and the roof was too slow to refill, and there wasn't enough.
Maybe that's what they thought the problem was, but maybe it's backing up and they're trying to flush it down. Yeah, so maybe we need to investigate what actually is.
So a snaps and solve has been done. Yes. But we can look at, we can highlight to start with.
And the good thing once that happens is that there's a job number attached to the job, and that gets it easier to track it and follow up. It's been logged for 6 weeks. What's happening.
So you've got to hang around outside public toilets to make sure that they're flushing properly and snap photos when they are.
I need to go in there and take a photo of when they're backing up. So you did right. Well, I just don't live very far away. I'll get them to text me and I'll run down. I'll video it. That might be more impactful.
You have to be careful.
Yeah, it's probably less standing outside public toilets.
Especially with regard to public toilets, I would remind all members that our role is governance, and if we see you with a plunger running towards public toilets, so ill advised.
This is good to know. Thank you.
And a health and safety issue. Thanks, Lynn. Is that everything for Wailua? Yes, thank you. All right.
I might start with, it was good that Victoria came in today with, so I did happen to go to the recent talk by John Wilson talking about the Britomart memorial, and followed by, and that was great, really good, and you and then a visit to the site. So I guess probably, and feel free to chime in on this one, whenever you like. But the conversation is really starting to, we've got Takapuniki, and that's sort of developing as it's developing, and there's the Britomart site, which is absolutely adjacent. I don't know if everyone's been around there, but it's like absolutely adjacent, and they do represent two different strands of a similar story, and you know, not everyone has been in agreement about the relative messaging that those two things represent. But I guess probably where we're getting to now is starting to think about, well, okay, can't avoid the fact that they're both kind of next to each other, and what do we do as a community collectively to enhance those sites and get them to work, maybe get them to work together, if you like, or in a way to describe it. Work together, like, how do they sit together? Like, you know,
I think
people are open to a conversation, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I think they should sit together. I've been through this over and over again, trying to push Inuku into accepting it as part of the narrative of Takapaniki.
Well, Rick seems quite open to the conversation.
He is. No, he's fine. He's very supportive of the monument, but he just sees it as a colonial object rather than and separate from Takapaniki. So I think the only way forward is possibly to form an RMC or have it connected to another RMC other than
Takapaniki. Early argument that they were two separate things, but after the talk, you know, they are actually part of the same story.
They are.
So they should be addressed simultaneously. You know, like while you are developing Takapaniki, you develop Bertamite Monument at the same time.
Yeah.
When
so
you,
let's not jump into solutions, but like basically there's a desire to have a conversation around what the best treatment is for those sites, and that's probably something that this board should begin to facilitate. And so I'm not quite sure what the mechanism is out there, but I'm just throwing it out there just to try and, you know, get the conversation going.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not quite sure what the next steps are, but you know, there are lots of different stakeholders that probably have some views how things might.
We still have an open action from May this year.
Yep, cool.
For the board around the Britomart Memorial Reserve.
So this is about the Britomart Memorial and how it interacts with Takapuniki, really, like in terms of landscaping. So ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, so you asked for a landscape development plan for the Britomart Memorial Reserve. So a landscape development.
We asked for that in May.
You did.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So it's still an open action.
That was something that's done.
Yeah. It is open action. So there will be expected to be some follow up on that.
Oh, good. So we're expecting a report on that at some point. That's great. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can't remember all the things.
I know. Well, the board does
that's
so
why
many.
we've got.
You do so many.
When you do so many good things, it's hard to keep track.
Well, that's good. That's exactly
Often what we hear in
the landscape
from our community.
Yeah, landscape development plan is good. So that's cool. So when are we expecting that, Pen?
Yeah, good call.
Well,
That was May last year.
We will this year.
Was it?
This year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's only been 6 months, come on. Take 2 years.
We can do without that kind of comment about staff. It can be helpful, thank you. We will ask for an update.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So who's that sitting with at the moment?
Russell Wedge.
Okay.
So would then Russell bring that back, or would Paul?
We will ask for an update and see where it's at.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Would be helpful to have some stuff around that. Cool. But that was a really excellent event, and you're always learning a lot when you go to these things. I'll let you talk about the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust. Okay, that's fine. So, Mount Herbert people, are you okay for me to talk about the correspondence around speed cameras in Governor's Bay? We've had an approach from a community member in Governor's Bay who is advocating for the use of speed cameras. I mean, I don't know. That's not something I know a lot about. So it's just like, can we find out what the? I've got some correspondence here, but basically it's like, can we have speed cameras in Governor's Bay? That's essentially it.
These have been discussed at community meeting. What do you call them?
Residents Association.
Yes, we're educated. And the open discussion was that most people that submit solutions to the boy races have the opinion that these solutions aren't going to affect them. And the problem with any solution, it affects the whole, anyone transporting through the bay. So you put speed cameras in Governor's Bay and suddenly everyone going home who's going 62 k's through an area they're not supposed to be, suddenly getting a speed camera. It's very unpopular suddenly to have speed cameras taking photographs of around.
I don't even think they're a thing, are they, speed cameras? Do we even have them? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
I've been done going through Little River.
I did read a report about them. The police have, in the wiseness, have upgraded the sense that they can now spot you using cell phones. And take photographs.
I mean, again, it's like, I don't want. It's a community member who's got a solution. I'm just putting it to the board to say that there's been an approach, and I guess my question is, you know, there must be. I mean, this is part of a big, wider conversation, and I'm just feeding into it, and you know, like.
Is it a question that we were put to? Because is it the police or Waka Kotahi? It's Waka Kotahi. Right?
I have approached the police. We've had the police attend a hui at Taupaki. We've asked for speed cameras before. We've asked for speed bumps. We've asked for greater policing around the area, but apparently we don't have enough accidents to justify the use of any of those tools. Of course, if we don't have anyone around there policing them in the first place, it's hard to find evidence to support them. We're on a main road, so things like speed bumps can't be used. Things like crossing ways can't be used either. So it's an ongoing discussion, but we have approached them before.
Yeah,
we've got. Our community council will come to us.
That's one of the briefings we're wanting to line up is with the police. You've asked for that. I do wonder if, knowing that there are residents, there's a Governor's Bay Residents Association, I wonder if you should refer the person, like, you know, this is an individual speaking. I wonder if, in terms of actually having an active speak, is getting something from a residents association carries a little bit more weight. Because if they've talked about it, which they will have, and they will have had similar conversations to what you've had in Rapaki too, I think, Luana, then maybe there's more that they could glean from the local community around local feeling about that. Because I'm just aware, you know, when you ask an action like that, then staff time. So what you're doing is staff time reacting to one person asking about something.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I'd want to do. I guess I just like, as I say, it's like a sharing exercise. Like there's been this level of communication. It's a hot topic for the board.
Yeah.
Particularly those who live in Whakatau.
Yeah.
That. So this is the kind of feedback we're getting from the community. And I guess probably like how do we collectively as a board respond to the, you know, I mean, I can refer that to the chair of the Residents Association for sure.
And was that about the anti-social road users, not just people speeding through?
I think people are just a little bit desperate, aren't they? It's about the anti-social road user, you know, like you get a lot of feedback like that, obviously, Luana.
Boy, races going through Governor's Bay, it goes like anything. 2 o'clock.
It
And
really
people
does.
have said about the speed limits too, like even in Littleton, that we've lowered all the speed limits, but how are we enforcing it? Because otherwise we've just changed the signs.
So Waka Kotahi came and talked to the Little River Community Wariwa Trust, and they said that there's going to be a plan they're going to implement as far as, and that would, you know, there's the enforcing the speed limits, and then there might be the idea of speed cameras. So actually going to them again and asking them about that, what is the next step in that plan to create a safer community for driving?
So there's kind of 2 things here then, isn't there? There's potentially the concerns that are being raised by the community, if it's widely felt, around the safety and speeds at which people are operating on our roads, and the other is what, if any, mitigation or enforcement steps are Kotahi putting in place across the peninsula. And I guess, do we have, they come relatively frequently to us?
Yeah, some of that won't be, but there's not a state highway around the inner harbour. That's council roads. It's not Waka Kotahi. Listen, a little bit of because we've got staff listening into this, so just a little bit of a response. Police did do a blitz and caught more locals than antisocial drivers. There's one comment that's been made, and we do have a briefing booking in about March for the police. So you can have a good discussion then.
Yep, and this will feed into it to some degree.
Yeah.
Is like let's just say, for example, everyone, and all the research backed it up, and that it was, you know, that speed cameras were a great idea, and let's go ahead with it, right? How does that get? Do we know how that gets? Is that a police operationalise that, or would that be a what
I think
Kotahi?
it would be a city council, around the inner harbour would be city council.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I might
So we do have
to the community association before we start pushing things that might be unpopular.
We could.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but we could investigate
It's good advice.
at the same time, right? Because then if we hear from the community they want it, we have the answer of how to do it.
Yeah, and from this discussion, we can have a discussion with the police and ask them to do a bit of a blitz on speeds, you know, to pay some extra attention to Governor's Bay, if that's what.
Oh, they do.
If that's what you'd like.
I've been there 10 years and we've had one breathalyzer test in Governor's Bay.
That you have seen.
Yeah.
At once.
Okay, so we can feed that through to police now.
Yeah.
But in terms of a long-term kind of ongoing solution, that's much more of an investigation.
Where does the money go would be my question too, because it could be an incredible source of funding for the peninsula. Start collecting revenue.
Tim Jar accounting.
Why not? Speed in the area, spend in the area.
Okay, so but we just need to keep a focus on it, really.
Yeah.
Because, you know, obviously there is community concern.
So, sorry, do you want to, as a board, agree to, you know, just so it is noted in the minutes, agree that you'd like to raise the issue of, you know, dangerous speeds when police brief you, and also request that they do a bit of a blitz?
And also comment on the efficacy of speed cameras.
Yeah.
And if you know,
and other alternatives, because they may be able to come with some other ideas.
Yeah.
But if it's a councillor,
I think we would need to get clarification first if speed cameras are a matter for the council or the police. So Penelope noted that it's a council matter. My understanding was that it was actually a police matter, so maybe it's just clarifying.
Yeah, they do it together, Amy. So our staff begin with police and work out where they go, and
people do absolutely
right. Would, instead of asking council staff right now to, you know, investigate the use of speed cameras, would you want to wait till you had your briefing with the police and discuss that with them first and get their advice on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we can note those two things in the minutes, that the board agreed to raise the matter of speeding drivers with the police when the police brief them, and also to ask if the police can, you know, undertake a speeding blitz, or we'll finesse the wording a little bit on that.
Are we, so is there the response on that individual who raised the question? Are we not going to ask him to go and consult other residents and then come with some solutions?
No,
that's absolutely to go in minutes, so that can just be an action that how it do locally.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have anything else, Simon?
I do. Yep. So had a good chat to James Ensor from the Boat Safety Group recently, just about the breakwater there at Naval Point, and so they'd like to come and give us an update at a future meeting for one. So I mean that's public forum, but just give you a heads up there. And out of that, I'm just kind of interested in like what the next report that we might get around that breakwater and just the general like the water area of at Naval Point in terms of development there.
Yep, so Naval Point is one of the serious briefing topics, so it's higher up the priority list. James Ensor's already booked in for the 12th of December as a public forum.
Good, right, so cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. He just sent me a reminder this morning just to make sure that we but it's just helpful to talk about because just for the new members and stuff, like it has been it's been one of the more contentious parts of that development, the creation of the breakwater and what the shape that the breakwater might take, because there are different views about, you know, about the shape of it and what it's trying to achieve. So it's just worth just putting that out there. Just another couple of things very quickly. So had the opportunity to pop over and visit the good people of the Hidden Valley Trust. I'll probably get that name wrong, but over in Purdo in the weekend and see the good work that they've been doing there in restoring native plantings in the area just above Purdo there. Many thousands of trees planted, so was really interesting and good, and that's something that we got to keep an eye on. I also did a talk at a Parihaka commemoration on Saturday over in Littleton. That was a really nice event at the Rose Gardens on the site of the old Littleton jail there, and which was significant actually in terms of the course of events of Parihaka, and it was very well attended. And yeah, I was one of 20 speakers, and the other two carried a lot more mana than I do, I have to say, on that site. So, but that was good. It was a nice opportunity just to you know just to talk about what's a pretty shameful event in New Zealand history, really, among other shameful events. And that'll probably do it. I've taken up more than enough of your time. Yeah, thank you. There's many other things, but it's all right. I think that
we meet frequently. Howard.
I've got nothing really exciting. It's just the beginning. The only one really is I had the disappointment of reading the newspaper this morning and finding out that council hasn't spent 30% of the road maintenance budget or the capital maintenance budget. And the roads over in the bay are disgusting. The main concern that I've got coming in was the corner on the Mopuku. You know what it is, that forestry peninsula over there?
Mopuku.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that right?
The corner there has got potholes right on the corner. To actually get around the corner without hitting the forestry, you have to actually cross the medium strip on a blind corner. Really needs to be looked at by council. It's been repaired and repatched and it's just holes coming back through here. So if we can get a truck up there, that'd be great.
And have we done a CSR on that? Like have we done a CSR?
It's a CSR. Snaps and solve.
Yeah, snaps and solve or an
no,
or
anything. Driving trying not to pull off the road.
So that's how council.
So I thought I'd upgrade it to bring in here in the community board and put higher priority on it.
I guess probably what you're saying is that it's it has been repaired a number of times.
Well, it's that whole area. And last time we had a briefing on the roads, they said that well they get upgraded when they're patched, they get to a higher level of maintenance when it's patch on patch. Well, that doesn't seem to be the situation over at the.
There can be some seasonal
stuff
stuff
area
too, though. Like there can be some weather.
Is there any more specific details you can just offline about the location of that?
Well, that corner where the entrance to Mopuku Peninsula is, where the trucks kept coming out doing the forestry. That I did notice coming in was actually very bad.
Yeah.
So the forestry trucks are contributing to the.
No, just bad maintenance of the roads. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Hey. I'm just a guy making.
No, it's worth bringing up, however.
Yeah. I'm not going to not bring it up, especially when I see that 30% of the budget wasn't actually used. I thought that was a very bad.
I think that it's probably worth just clarifying that it's not that they intentionally didn't spend it. It's like the capacity doesn't exist to allow the spending to occur, which is a different thing, right? It's not like they're like, oh, I'm not going to spend it.
Oh no, but the point is,
it's like they just can't.
They didn't spend it. Well, that's just
the job priority will be there. Just the
yeah. So obviously the capacity needs to be increased to ensure that the priority topics are done and the fluff isn't so much of a concentrate and more on the priority.
But you can't just magic up construction capacity out of thin air, right? Like
no, but we've got to just rather than going too much into that, we've got to note that here. Is there anything else from your part of the?
Not for at this stage for public, but
okay. Well, we are public, so
we're a lot of secret squirrels out there.
So basically, up here is it?
Okay, so
it'll be that corner there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that's Mopuku, isn't it? Yeah.
So we'll move from you, Howard, to
that corner there, just as you come around that corner.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a few things. just want to know where destination management plan is heading and how far it is, and if possible, an update. And just related to that, another issue is the traffic management plan. I spoke to quite a few people, and they're very worried that the next cruise ship, the first cruise ship is due on 19th. So, you know, how it will happen. At the same time, there is a cruise ship in Littleton, so buses will be coming here as well. So quite a bit of concern in town. So what is happening around that in relation to destination management plan in the long run, where it is heading in a briefing would be awesome. I have had some correspondence emails that were forwarded to me. That the person has been speaking to Christchurch and said so they haven't given them any clear answers. So yeah, some community members would like to know. And also a resident from Duoshel, they are having a bit of an issue, and they're not sure whether it is council issue or someone else. So on State Highway 75, there is a slip on the side and a block culvert just before when you go down into the ocean. And what is happening was that culvert was blocked and the water was outflowing and into their property underneath. So it has done quite a few damage, and I got photo and I went to the site visit and they have got video as well. So it has damaged a portion of their garage, and quite a lot of water in the garage and their driveway, which is basically the only access way. So they have spoken to the contractor, which is GSL on site. They say that they haven't got funding to clear the gutter below the road so that the water could flow. So I don't know how that funding works or who is responsible. So they were quite concerned because of the extreme water flow. One of the tree has fallen on to their house, and the other one is pretty much eucalyptus tree ready, and their kids are very worried about sleeping whenever there is a wind or rain.
Yeah,
The tree might fall. It's really leaning onto their house. So
doesn't sound good.
yeah, so we like, and I've got video and I will share it with you. Their address is 29 Daily Crescent, Duosha.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bayview Crescent is a, you said it's on State Highway 75,
Yes, so
which is,
State Highway 75.
which makes it Waka-Kotahi, but the water,
Yeah.
but GSL are the council's contractor, so we will do some follow-up on that, and we're having a briefing on roading soon. So questions like that will be perfect for the roading briefing, the transport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
will be
And they've
good.
obviously logged it if they're dealing with the contractor, right? So that's why it's kind of escalated to this level.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing about road work, you may have seen quite a lot of road work on State Highway coming here. The road work always starts in summer. Spring it starts, goes all the way to summer. Yeah. That is the tourist season here. It affects not just tourist flow, it affects everything in the ships, the way buses are in and out. Is there a way, or why the work only happens in summer or like a shoulder season?
Yeah.
One of the reasons they said that it sticks well, but most of the work is not just related to using the pavement. They could do on alternative times. So that is really a significant concern for the community and the tourism on the peninsula.
Sure, that's a good question for the briefing also. I
Can
think.
I just,
Yeah.
can I just speak, you speak, just quick, A couple of things. No real evidence of buses coming from Middleton from those two. And I spoke to a couple of bus drivers to find out where they're from. And there are buses coming through every day from tours going around the country, but no evidence of anything other than some small vans coming from Middleton. But one of the
Are you talking about recently?
yeah, just the ships.
Cruise ships, yeah.
The roadworks thing was quite interesting. That sort of fits in with the same conversation. One of the bus drivers said, look, a lot of the tours aren't going to come to Akaroa because of the hold-ups on the roads and the slower traffic speeds.
Yeah.
They're losing possibly about an hour's time in Akaroa. So therefore, a lot of them are making the decisions around those things that have happened. I think they're worth noting.
That would be quite a big thing. Akaroa, tourism is quite a main source of income.
Oh, it is. It's everything
for people here.
Oh,
So
that's it.
speed is affecting whether it's 1 minute, they said, or it's just psychological effect, like instead of going 100, you are going 60. So it is going to change the plans. So it would be really nice to work around those so that access is made easy for people, to come here.
So
Ease of use.
a lot of those are questions that can get raised in that road one. The destination management plan, we're getting an update on that, I think, aren't we, for the board on where that one's tracking?
Yes.
Who's tracking it? Because there's been a few changes around that, and the traffic management plan sounds like it's a matter of wait and see on the 19th, and then.
Yep. It is. There's been a lot of staff advice. We can find some of that for you, but especially for the new board members, and give that to you. There has been a lot of staff advice about the traffic management plans for the cruise ships here and in Littleton. So we'll get you that information. There are no plans to change any of that. So the concerned people will just have to sit on their hands and wait until things happen on the 19th and see how that goes. We can also set up a briefing with Wakakatahi around the highway as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah, is that something you'd like?
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised how rough the road is.
And the road work as well. Yeah, every year.
So there's lots of notes and homework on the back of all of that. The thing with members exchanges, we generally don't solve the issue at the point that it's raised in the meeting.
Yeah.
But we do get it.
Try and get
it gets it into the
program.
There's an action with most things that we can then start working on the solutions or answers at least.
Yep. So with this public member about the Bayview present. So I will wait to hear back from Penelope.
Penelope's got a note that it's the 21 day view.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
The road water issue.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Luana.
Wonderful things around the peninsula. The weather is improving, so we're getting a lot more visitors. The not so good side of that, and I sound like a broken record, is an increase in drivers on our roads. We have to contend with heavy vehicles on the road, cyclists, motorcyclists. Sorry, what's the other name for boy racers?
Antisocial road.
Antisocial drivers. So as summer approaches, that's going to worsen. The boy racer issue seems to worsen over the summer months. We do have blitzers on. We have had them occasionally, and I've spoken to the police. They do run them over a period of time. They notice a drop in boy races, but as soon as they move off, the boy races come back again. Unfortunately, the blitzers don't occur at the times when we have a number of boy races, antisocial road users on the road.
Well, that might also suggest the blitz is happening somewhere else.
Well, they tend to drive them, from Christchurch through the peninsula. It's a bit like herding cats. What we've also noticed, particularly in Governor's Bay, is an increase in police theft and tampering with mail over the weekend. That seems to be a bit of an issue.
Wow.
I don't know if the two are correlated, potentially, but there's been an uprise in youth crime, things like that. So it could be a whole lot of reasons. That is pretty much it from me. I wish I could leave on something more positive. It's almost summer, almost Christmas. Almost there.
Double the trouble.
Almost there.
Governor's Bay Pool will be open soon. It was good to see you read it.
Oh,
on the 12th. Yeah.
There you go, positive.
Thank you.
Right. It doesn't, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be positive. And Kathy.
Yes, issues on the table. I didn't read the papers, but I follow Facebook in our community. So these would be individuals posting things, but it is relevant to community and the work of council. So I guess I just have to figure out what's ops and kind of what's, you know, how to sort of engage in those relationships. A couple of standouts for me, and it was around rubbish, around Littleton, the central, you know, the main street there, and within our community. So within our community, we took part quite recently in the Keep New Zealand Beautiful program, where you pick rubbish in your neighborhood. So just for data's sake, we collected 30 kilos of rubbish within 2 hours. Great news, the beach was clean, the beaches were clean, the coastal walkway. The worst parts for us was the car park up at what we call Rocky Point or Tourist Point. There's a lot of rubbish there. And basically the walkway from Cass Bay going down to the beach and that coastal walkway, we collected 3 bags of rubbish there, and pretty much half of that 30 kilos, like 13 kilos of it were recyclables. So in just that tiny area there, I think basically drivers just tossing out broken, you know, bottles and things like that. Yeah. So it was really good way to collect data to show what the issues are
Some years
in that
ago, I took the staff
space.
around there, Casper and Torsey, and did
Yeah, just that.
trailer load.
Yeah, that's right. All kinds of stuff, tires, and so that was just one example. And in Littleton itself, there's a very dedicated person, Duncan, that walks down the street from such a small thing. He collects like 60 liters of rubbish bags. So it's just that interaction with what council do, what community can do, or residents can do. Either at an ongoing basis, but there's willingness for the public to help. And if we collect all of that, can council even just give free dumping fee or that sort of thing? So I think more chat will happen around that.
We have talked about
Yeah.
that in the past, because there's been lots of community initiatives around
Yes.
rubbish collection, which is great and to pick up. And council are very able and keen to help.
Great. So
Tip
just
fees and those sorts of things, so that it's
yeah,
it's not a financial burden, it's just time that people are giving up.
right. So
That
how would
point that you talked about.
Rocky Point?
Yeah, I've
A
done
lot
a pick
down
up there
there.
and talked to local residents,
Yeah.
and they said, because you wonder if putting a bin there would change it. But they said
But-
sometimes you see a family sitting around having like a picnic, and they finish their picnic and it's just off the cliff
Yeah.
in the way they drive. So I don't know whether a bin would make a difference. It's like that,
Yeah.
but there's
So-
something missing.
Really hard to get a bin there. So are you
Yeah.
wanting any follow-up, or are you just telling us what you're doing in terms of the?
Both. I think in terms of the rubbish around Littleton Main Street, we will have a meeting with community group, and they would like to do something, but I'm pretty sure they'll be looking for assistance, and they felt that they have tried to seek assistance, don't know how and how they approached it, but yeah, so maybe some conversations or having someone that could come and make decisions to be a part of that meeting, rather than we are talking and then we don't know how to progress it.
Right.
But that was
Which
like-
group is it?
It's Duncan from Project Littleton, so Project Littleton would like to, yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah, and the business association,
Okay.
yeah.
Has the-
So that
so-
was just quite a,
Just further on, has council come back with any feedback on the result of their action to remove all the rubbish tins that they did? Has there been any feedback on the increase in rubbish, or has it had what sort of effect it's had? Don't know. Okay, no, was curious.
I haven't heard.
No.
I know that they're not intending to put them back. So Project Littleton have staff that they liaise with in the team, so they could just raise that
okay.
with
yeah,
with
okay.
Andrea or Pip
Yep.
in the office here.
Mhm.
They
And-
have good relationships with them, so
Excellent, okay.
and they can help them navigate. That's part of what they do, help
Yeah.
them navigate into the council and be talking to the people they need to be talking to about that
Awesome.
rubbish stuff.
And their carbon coach, Helen, should be involved in that conversation as well. 'cause she's
Yeah.
really-
But I think she's not going to carry on at some point, because I think she might go on leave or something. Yeah. So, yeah, and the other one, again, just noticing was the signs around the bays for, not being able to swim. Yeah, that was the big one, and a resident had asked is like, how do we know why we can't swim? When does the sign get removed? And so it was around process, who puts the sign up? Why do they put it up? And ideally when it could get moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on, is it online on Ecan that you can see?
Well, thank you, you
Yeah.
forwarded that one.
Not really.
It's
It's
not
the
as
answer,
updated,
right.
is it?
You have to
From
look
what?
for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, presumably like the water scientists at Ecan are testing the water all over the place all the time.
Yeah.
So they'll know the reasons, but it's just getting that communication out to.
Yeah, so recently
And live.
recently there were sewer overflows into the harbour. And so it's an emergency process that happens
It happens here a lot.
until the signs get taken down.
That's what
I
you call it.
understand.
I think the question was, is that sign overdue to be taken down with like Brookfield,
I
maybe the
don't
sewage one was.
They think
sorted,
like it
but-
gets set, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had that question in the past around in Akaroa as well, and haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a bit of confusion.
Yeah.
around when
Yeah.
the
I hear
council
on
When,
site
can't-
how,
personally,
Yeah,
the
I-
signs there, I would
yeah.
go under.
Yeah,
It's been an issue mainly at Gaspé, not Corsair though, I think, right?
no, according to the website, it's all of it, and the signs are, I think the one you saw in Cass Bay, and so, yeah. Mhm.
So is this- it would be
We'll
good-
get some
Not open,
process,
Mm.
Yeah,
some
that
detail
would
around
be-
process.
Yeah.
So we can,
Because they're
yeah.
taking the signs down again, I know that has been asked in the past. All right.
Great,
We'll do that.
thank you.
And just one last one is around safety as well. We are getting break-ins and things in the bays at early hours of the morning, so
Oh.
I think it's.
Crime
it's
again,
either-
police,
yep,
that
summer,
police
all that, yeah,
conversation.
police issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
Excellent, thank you. I just have a few very quick things. I had speed limits and policing, so I won't go into those because I think we've broached those quite broadly, which is good, but obviously it's a consistent issue. I've also had some conversation around Naval Point and the continuation of the developments happening down there. And there's a new section of car parking and recreational space that's open down there that there's just concern from residents that it's going to become a hub for antisocial road users unless there's some mitigation in there by way of either cameras or barrier runs or both. And also some questions from the local community about what the lighting at night might look like down there, as far as, is it low level specific to the area, or is it going to be like they're in a stadium? I think from what we've seen, it's going to be specific lighting that's a bit lower level around, which would be ideal. But it would be really good as a board to get an update on the goings on at Naval Point, both proactive council development and antisocial.
If I was looking to do some burnouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You drive fast around the inner harbour, and stop at Naval Point.
That's-
It's like
That's
the
like-
burnout mecca.
It is perfect for that kind of thing.
They're on the Queen's Valley, which is where they go as well.
And the other one I had was an approach from Penny Carnaby on behalf of the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust around an opportunity to come and speak to the board. Potentially for slightly longer than a public forum or a deputation, given the number of initiatives that they're involved with right across the peninsula. And there's a couple of good avenues for that to happen in briefing format, where we could allow a little more time in the agenda and also opt to have that as a board briefing or as a board and public briefing as well. So it could be a slightly wider conversation. So I'll go back to Penny with that information and either realistically probably beginning of next year, unless there's a gap prior, we can have a conversation about the amazing work they do and how we can maybe even do more.
It will be the new year. You guys have so many briefing topics. I mean, look at all that's been raised today. And so you'll be prioritising those. But really, we try to do them, make sure you get them in time for a decision or something, and obviously to respond to hot topics that are happening.
And also Pen, like, because we're pretty much into like the annual planning process as well, so it'll be quite useful. So just through you, Mr. Chair. If we could probably get those calendarized, just like the timeline part of it.
Really?
Because I think like 27th of November is like a drop dead date for, so it's like,
Suggestions for the draft or whatever.
it's like, we don't even have a formal meeting between now and then. So, you know, I mean, in 4 months' time, we're like well into it. So, it's the time.
So that means we're relying heavily on you.
Well, yes, heavily.
Yeah, which is good because we're confident we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest assured, Mr. Chair, in the interests of this community, absolutely forefront. So, it's literally my job. And just can I just bring up the cruise ships again? Is that okay?
Good.
It's just probably just worth noting that public transport's been really overloaded with the cruise ships coming in. And I know we don't fund buses, but that has been obviously a concern, and I'm not quite sure what the
Suggesting passenger rail a little.
City, the council didn't keep a couple of buses before they sold them, then they could have used them for cruise boats. Hey, that was a good idea.
I mean, I don't know what the pathway is, but like there's certainly some disquiet among Littleton residents that like all of a sudden the buses, they can't even get it.
And that was, I heard that was because the fee for the shuttle was like $50 or something.
51. And it was a really old bus too, apparently.
$50 I'm taking my car to the next cruise boat and
So
45
I,
I'll take you.
yeah, so I am assuming that our traffic planning staff who are working on that issue are well aware of that and have made some action around it.
Great. Okay.
We will get an update from them.
Yeah,
And I think ECAN, community engagement, has been talking to information centre who runs the volunteers who coordinate the whole cruise ship events. So
Yeah.
So it's a concern.
It is great to see public transport being used though, right? Like,
yes,
we just need more on it.
Yeah.
We just have to bring people in to use it.
Yeah. From
And
the
that's-
Doesn't
outside.
matter where they come from.
Okay, so that was a much longer than usual members exchange, but good to have the opportunity to do it. And obviously there's lots of issues and a lot of them are common issues, so it's good to have more of a discussion around that. But that gets us to the end of our first meeting. So Tyrone, if you're happy to advise us with a cut of hair, and that will be the end of today's meeting.
Kia whakaarea te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia turuki, whakataha ai, kia turuki, whakataha ai. Ho me e, hui e, tai.